after former President Omar al-Bashir was compelled to leave power, military council intended to handle the transition period is now pressurized by protesters and African Union demanding its dissolution. In Algeria, Tayeb Belais, an important figure of the regime and president of the Constitutional Council, resigns from his position following protests in the country. After Africa and South America, the famous Paris-Dakar rally will now be organized in the Middle East. This decision will take effect from the year 2020, according to the announcement by the Amaury Sports Organization, specialized in organizing leading international sports events. These are our top stories. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast. The declaration made this week Tuesday by Martin Osei Kuku, chairperson of the coordination of the Gabonese Parents-Teachers Association, follows the negotiation started 2 days earlier between all stakeholders of the national education in Gabon, namely the Gabonese students and the Parents National Federation of Associations, as well as the coordination of the Gabonese Parents-Teachers Associations, thanks to the Minister of National Education. They also exhorted the minister in charge of education in Gabon to look into the matter for classes to possibly resume throughout the country in a close future. The Minister of National Education, Michel Mengamison, had called for an important meeting last Sunday with a number of stakeholders in the education service. In the coming days, another meeting is scheduled with the Prime Minister in order to tackle the current issue. The Libyan National Unity Government said to have never committed to blocking migrants in Libya and warned to join with jihadist fighters unless Marshal Khalifa Haftar walked back.
Well, I think the interest of the whole Europe to see a democratic and peaceful Libya. And the North Africa, as a government of national accord and the government of Libya, we are very clear. We are capable and will to defend Tripoli, and we will go beyond this to take back all his troops where it come from.
Metik assured that if the civil war spread in this vast oil country, 800,000 Africans could try to reach European shores. Moreover, he warned that in case Marshal Haftar's troops kept walking, the National Unity Government armed forces would no longer be able to handle more than 400 prisoners of the jihadist group, the Islamic State, currently in the country.
To Libya, Haftar is trying to send a message to the people on east side of Libya. This is a war between East and the West, and this is not the case, and this is damaging the Libyan society.
In 2017, Rome entered into an agreement validated by the European Union with the Libyan authorities to train and equip the Libyan Coast Guard. From July 2017, a more controversial section with Libyan militias had led to a drastic reduction in resignation. The coming into power of Matteo Salvini in 2018 and his refusal to allow migrants rescued off the Libyan coast enter Italy has further reduced the influx from 30,000 migrants who arrived on the Italian coast between January and mid-April 2017 to 625 this year. Appointed on Friday as the head of the military council and already under pressure from the protesters, General Abdel Fattah had promised to establish a fully civilian government 4 days after the people require the transitional military council to be dissolved.
We are Sudanese. We are looking forward for justice, for freedom, for democracy. And we thank all our people, our youth, our women for this great victory. And we are going to make all pressure to military council to reply to all our demands.
After images of military leaders saluting the protesters over the past few days, relations between the army and protesters had called the military to join them in getting Bashir out seemed to have strained.
We not believe in them. We're still in our revolution. Our demands are not met, and we're not going to leave the Sudan until we get everything done. We hope that we can get civil civil government. We don't want any army government anymore in Sudan. We don't want the Islamic Party, the National Congress.
The African Union has threatened on Monday to suspend Sudan from the Continental Organization if army does not leave power for the benefit of a civilian political authority within 15 days. Neighboring Egypt has closely been following the development of the situation in Sudan, reiterating its support for the will of the people, while Germany has called for a quick transfer of power to a civilian government. In Algeria, one of the main figures of the regime targeted by protesters has just abdicated. Tayeb Belaiz, the president of the Constitutional Council, submitted his resignation on Tuesday, according to the national television. The Constitutional Council is responsible for validating candidacies for the presidential election. A disputed poll scheduled for July 4th to elect a successor in replacement for former President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. The institution is also responsible for ensuring the regularity of voting operations. Emmanuel Macron was expected to give a speech on Monday evening in order to reassure his countrymen and put an end to the crisis of Yellow Vest that has lasted for nearly 6 months. But things did not go as planned. Early in the evening, a gigantic fire started and devastated the church of Notre Dame de Paris, a building belonging to the World Heritage of 8th century old. Emmanuel Macron strategically seized the opportunity to address the French people, calling for unity, cohesion, and reconstruction. He says the worst was avoided, though the battle was not yet fully won, and the next few hours would be decisive. The French president promised to rebuild the cathedral, which was built over 800 years ago. As a symbol of unity for common destiny, Emmanuel Macron is calling on the French to come together hand in hand in order to rebuild the edifice, as he promises to commit himself to launch a national subscription for funds raising for rebuilding the cathedral. The head of state was to speak on Monday evening around 8 p.m. from the Champs-Élysées in response to the concerns raised in a context of a great debate by the church Notre Dame de Paris, the French monument of 800 years old. Witness of the history of France invited Emmanuel Macron to give his speech on the Ile de la Cité. After 30 years traveling and discovering Africa and 10 years marveling at the South American landscapes, the biggest rally will write a new chapter in its history within the mysterious and deep deserts of the Middle East in Saudi Arabia. The agreement was formalized on Monday by the organizers. It runs for a period of 5 years. Created in 1978, the event, then called Paris-Dakar, was run between Europe and North Africa until 2007, before moving to South America. Between 2009 and 2018, it focused on Argentina, Chile, Peru, with a brief stop in Bolivia and Paraguay. Organizing the race in this region, however, it became complicated due to policies of austerities and weather constraints. Nevertheless, navigation overtaking will take place in these territories made for the rally raid, as promised by the new director of the event, the Frenchman David Castera. After former President Omar el-Bashir was compelled to leave power, military council intended to handle the transition period is now pressurized by protesters and African Union demanding its dissolution. In Algeria, Tayeb Belaiz, an important figure of the regime and president of the Constitutional Council, resigns from his position following protests in the country. After Africa and South America, the famous Paris-Dakar rally will now be organized in the Middle East. This decision will take effect from the year 2020, according to the announcement by the Amaury Sports Organization, specialized in organizing leading international sports events. That's all for our newscast today. Stay tuned on Gabon 24 for more news.